we often think about politics now as a purely electoral or institutional kind of concept. And I prefer the ancient idea that Augustine and Aristotle and others held that politics as being about what serves the common good and how can we sort of do the work we need together through institutions, but also through our own action to serve the common good. So I do think in that sense, I would say that it's a political in the broadest sense of trying to think about ways that universities can help serve our common good and help citizens and human beings develop the virtues and capacities to do that work well and to order them toward not just their own purposes as individuals, but toward the common purposes that we might share together. And so in that sense, I do think it is a civic project, I think, overall. And I do think it's important that we recognize that. In my own life, for example, after working in campaigns, I came back to graduate school to finish my PhD. And I'd thought for a long time I want to be involved in government or politics personally, and considered that as a possible kind of vocational path for me. And I think the campaign really taught me the challenges of electoral politics and of that form of politics. And so I was back in the library reading for my dissertation, and I read a great dialogue from Xenophon of Socrates, engaging this sophist interlocutor Antiphon, who was in politics. And Socrates has been very critical of Antiphon for not being just and not doing what he should do in politics. And Antiphon becomes very frustrated and says, Socrates, listen, buddy, you talk about how bad we are as politicians, but why don't you do it yourself, Socrates? Why don't you walk the walk, run for office, Socrates? And Socrates says in response, how now, Antiphon, is it better to be one private person in politics or to take pains to turn out or teach as many competent politicians as possible? And so I'd added that citizens. How do we teach as many competent politicians and citizens, leaders and citizens as possible to help us serve our common good? And so for me, my own sense as a teacher is to help prepare human beings to be the kinds of people and citizens that we need to serve the common good. And I think a focus on character is a really important part of that. And I think for me, think about the ways that we can cultivate the virtues and recognize that character is not disconnected from community. These are always concepts, always in relationship and in iteration together. So I think recognizing that for me does make it a civic project, both personally, and also socially. How do we shape people to be the kinds of citizens we need to make our democracy flourish and our human society flourish beyond just our own political communities?